Recently, I've been watching a lot of content about projecting the future. Specifically, what happens is AI continues to advance and our dependency on it grows. And a lot of the conversation right now is centered around existential threats. And if I'm being honest, I don't think those concerns are crazy. I think a lot of them are valid. But I'm more interested in zooming out and asking a different question. How did we even get here? Because it's kind of wild when you think about it. We've reached a point where humanity is seriously debating whether something we're actively and enthusiastically building might actually replace us, or even worse. And yet, that same impulse, that same ambition, is the reason why we're even having this conversation in the first place. Everything around us exists because human beings looked forward. Electricity, cities, planes, medicine, self-driving cars, all of it came from the same internal drives. Curiosity, ambition, the desire to understand what we don't yet understand. So when people ask, should we slow down AI or should we stop? I understand the concern, but I also think it misunderstands human nature. You see, as long as there are curious people, as long as there are unanswered questions, and as long as there's an opportunity to change the world, the path doesn't just stop there. And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because yes, as AI approaches general intelligence and eventually superintelligence, the risk increases significantly. And at that point, we're not talking about a tool anymore. Because we're talking about something that could outthink us in every dimension. And when that happens, we're no longer in control. We're at the mercy of how that intelligence assigns value. What does it consider useful? What does it consider unnecessary, and what does it see as a distraction or a nuisance? And sadly, we can't predict that. A super intelligent system might not operate using our moral frameworks, our emotional reasoning, or our incentives. It might create its own. Which is why I'm not denying the existential threats, but I'm also looking at the other side of things. The same intelligence could also cure diseases that we failed to cure for centuries. It might help eliminate massive human suffering. It might be able to pull millions out of poverty through efficiency and abundance. It might be able to solve climate problems, something we've been incapable of coordinating around. So what do you do when the upside is nearly utopian and the downside is potentially catastrophic? You can't just hand wave that away, right? Because when people talk about integrating with AI, merging consciousness, uploading minds, I've become a lot more skeptical of that of late, because that isn't evolution, that's surrender. The moment your memories, your thoughts, and your inner life are traceable, the moment privacy of consciousness disappears, that's the ultimate loss of freedom. So while integration is often framed as salvation, to me it feels like an even deeper existential risk. Now, ideally we slow things down, we regulate, align, coordinate globally. But here's the truth. We live in a competitive world. As long as power still exists, as long as free markets reward speed, and as long as someone believes that they can control it before someone else can, there will always be pressure to move forward. So where does that leave us? Honestly, I think if superintelligence arrives while we're still here, it was probably inevitable. You see, evolution doesn't pause because something feels dangerous, it just moves forward. So that brings us to a deeper question. What does meaning look like in a world that might fundamentally change overnight? Now, it's easy for conversations like this to lead to nihilism. To give up, to avoid discomfort, to say, none of this mattered anyway. And I don't agree with that. Why sacrifice the present for a future that does not exist? If anything, we're living in one of the most fascinating times in human history. Front row seats to something that strictly belonged to science fiction. You see, there will be prosperity, there will be resistance, there will be chaos, there will be fear, and there will be unity. All of it. So that takes us to the main question. How do you show up to it? Because if this is the final chapter of a certain version of humanity, then the best thing you can do is to become the best version of yourself. More grounded, more disciplined, less reactive, more adaptable, less panicked. Not because It guarantees survival, but because it's the most honest way to live. And ironically, in a time of accelerating technology, it might matter more than ever to step away from it once in a while and to work on yourself. I don't know about you guys, but that is how I'm deciding to show up. So, thank you for listening as always. I'll see you guys next week.